So Fernando Alonso said not too long ago that he wasn't going to compete in the postseason Abu Dhabi driver test because he was tired. And, as someone who is, over 40 years old now, having competed in the longest season of Formula One ever, and having at times been unwell. I mean, didn't he have some kind of viral infection or something like that before the Brazilian Grand Prix? To do this mammoth run for anybody, all the traveling and everything. I mean, I cover Formula One. I'm part of a podcast team, Grid Talk. Of course, go check it out if you haven't already. Great show, if I do say so myself. And, I'm occasionally organising that and editing it and everything like that. And I'm doing my videos for you guys too. And I'll be honest, it's tiring. I love it. I love it, absolutely. I love doing what I do, but it's tiring. But I do all my work here in this office. This guy does his work around the world, 5 different continents through 9 months of the year, traveling pretty much non-stop, media events, sponsorship commitments, a bit of testing here and there as well, simulator work. It's got to be tiring. It's got to be so tiring. And it turns out that Alonso has been battling in this Aston Martin car with an injury. He's been carrying an injury to his shoulder. So let's have a look at what's happened here. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com. Fernando Alonso waited until after the checkered flag waved at the end of his final race of the season to reveal that he has been racing with an injury. The 43-year-old pulled down the top corner of his Aston Martin overalls in the Abu Dhabi paddock to show he was wearing a pink athletic tape on his shoulder. You'll usually see that with tennis players. I've always wondered why they do that. I don't understand why they do that personally. Physiotherapists can probably tell you why. But you'll often see tennis players, I think you see with football players sometimes too, just competing with tape to help. I don't know why it helps, but it must do something, otherwise they wouldn't do it. When asked if it had been a particularly difficult year in Formula One, Alonso answered, "It depends a bit on what car you had. If you had a McLaren, a Ferrari or a Mercedes, it's much less tough because the car doesn't jump, the car is fast. And if you have our car, you injure your shoulder and have an injured shoulder for 6 races." So he's competed in both of the last triple headers, so USA, Mexico, Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar and Abu Dhabi, all with his shoulder apparently. It is believed Alonso aggravated an already developing injury on the particularly bumpy new surface recently in Brazil, where he suggested to his team that he was close to needing to retire from the race due to pain. "Well, you take a pill for the pain and go again," said the Spaniard. "It has nothing to do with age. When I'm physically unwell, people immediately think, well, he's 43. But another time, Parc Ferme was like the Walking Dead and I was fine. Much more fit than them." I think he's probably talking about Qatar last year. I could be wrong though. So it's a bit about the small injuries you get, especially if the car doesn't allow you to sit perfectly in your seat. Yeah, I mean, that Brazil race was ridiculous. And he also, he had a few crashes that weekend. The car had to be rebuilt a few times. I think a couple times. I know definitely after qualifying. And that one after qualifying was particularly bad because of the amount of time they had. Qualifying in Brazil, remember, wasn't on Saturday, it was on Sunday morning, so the mechanics had 2-3 hours to repair the car, which they did, but you wouldn't blame them if they cut some kind of corners just to get the thing out there, but not in ideal, perfect, comfortable condition, I should say, for Alonso. Plus, the resurfaced surface in Brazil was a nightmare too, which is probably the bigger factor in all honesty. Aston Martin has been feverishly developing the team this year, installing a state-of-the-art facility and even wooing Adrian Newey from Red Bull. On track though, Alonso has been repeating for months that the 2024 Aston Martin is either the slowest or the second slowest car on the grid. When asked if the team's off-track efforts give him confidence, Alonso said on Sunday, "I don't need more confidence." He's actually said recently he's got too much confidence as well apparently, which might be one of his drawbacks. According to him, I didn't say it, I'm just repeating what he said. "I know that when I have a normal car, I will be high up as possible. We've known for a few months now that what we've done is wrong this year. Now we have to apply those lessons to next year's car." But 2026 is still the big news for many teams, apart from McLaren and Ferrari, who have superior cars. It will be difficult to close those gaps at everyone. I think the rest of us have few options for 2025. We also have to think a little bit further ahead. Even to date, Williams was far superior to us. Haas was in another category, Alpine another category, RB should have been in front of us today too, so we were only better than the Saubers. Many observers are stunned that more than 20 seasons into his F1 career, Alonso is still motivated despite a current lack of results. "I always give my all," he said. even in these last races where we did not have any big objective at the end, it seems that from the outside they have always been waiting for me to get older, but that day never comes for now. When I start 14th, I think I will finish in the points. When I start 8th, I think I will finish on the podium. I am always hungry. Even Alonso has admitted he's still learning, especially at the end of the longest season in F1 history. We've all learned lessons this year about how to travel, he said. Like this triple of Las Vegas, Qatar and Abu Dhabi, one place to another, and then an event in Saudi Arabia between the races. Next year I will try to go home even if it's for 48 or 72 hours. So small adjustments to arrive in better shape next year. So there we go. Fantastic words really from Alonso. I mean, the detractors will say, the critics will of course point to, and I have to address that big financial elephant in the room. They'll say, oh, they're paying him loads of money. Of course he's motivated. And of course, that is a factor in it. I am sure, if you're being well remunerated for your services, you will be more motivated to compete. I don't think that's a bad thing, though. I don't think that's a negative. Aston Martin have a lot of money. They're willing to spend it on big names like Adrian Newey, Sebastian Vettel before this, now Fernando Alonso, maybe Max Verstappen in the future. They're just that kind of team. And at the end of the day, Alonso is not old. He might be old by Formula 1 standards, but he's not old in general. 43, yeah, for a lot of athletic sports like tennis, like football, you would very, very rarely see a player for those kinds of sports competing at that age. Formula 1 is different though. It's much more about your reaction times, which clearly are still very good for Alonso. Alonso has the most experience out of anybody in the sport's history to call upon, and in truth, he will never be challenged by Lance Stroll over a season. Stroll is just not that good of a teammate. So Alonso might possibly, I don't think he is. I think he's as good now as maybe he's ever been. Maybe he's lost a little bit of pace, a 10 for 2 here or there now, but it's hard to tell because his teammate is never going to be able to show him up for that. We're never going to know because the true comparison of any Formula 1 driver is their teammate. And Lance Stroll, frankly, with greatest respect to the guy, is not as good as Alonso. That is clear as day. It's just the way it is. But yeah, I think it's admirable what Alonso's doing. Being injured and competing in 6 Grand Prix, if I injured my shoulder, yeah, I'd do my job. But again, all I do is sit in this office and make videos. I'd be typing, I'd be editing, I'd be using my mouse, but I'd be like kind of wincing while I'm doing it if it's my right shoulder or whatever. But here he is, competing in Grand Prix for hours and hours on end. It's not just the hour and a half, 2 hour Grand Prix either. It's the qualifying, it's the practice, it's the training that he won't be able to do in the same way, but he'll still be training. He'll still be training. He will not be taking days away from the gym. He'll still be doing his cardio. He'll still be working out the other arm, his other muscles. He'll just not be doing that shoulder, just resting that shoulder probably. And that's it. So yeah, it's incredible what Alonso does. As someone pointed out, I love calling him the Spanish samurai. I think and this is another thing to show. Samurais would not give up in a situation like this. They would just keep battling on. And that is what Nando is doing. So my hat, if I had a hat, it would be off to you, sir, for competing with an injury at 43 years old in Formula 1. I don't know how he does it, but he does, because he's amazing. But yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. What are yours? Are you surprised that Alonso has been carrying an injury for, a quarter of the season? That's what it is. Maybe not in terms of time, but in terms of races. It's been 6 races out of 24, so a quarter of the season. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more content on the world of F1 just like this.